back. Hello, Kamran Pasha.
Hey,
Hey guys, I can hear you now. For some reason, I lost all volume.
Great.
So I had to reboot my computer.
How's it going, buddy? Now what the fuck happened?
So it looks like I just got kicked off of Twitter again. I think this time I'm done. I think I'm
What
done.
is it the second strike?
Second, well, they killed my previous account that I had for a decade,
Right?
and then I sort of hid out for a few months, and I figured out a way to get back on and create a new account.
Yeah, because
And,
you told me that when he came on our show. So
yeah, and but eventually, the Eye of Sauron finds you, and they figured out it's me, right? And,
is it the same
so
eye that's like
it.
crawling out of the Gulf of Mexico?
Ah,
yeah, like that flaming eye,
that
whatever.
So
I
does
think
this
I'm done
mean
this time? I think I'm out. I think I'm going to be off this platform. I had learned my lesson, and I actually created a dummy account on a separate thing that I could use in case they killed me. So when this thing went down, I instantly went to the dummy account, activated it, and within about 1 minute, they figured out the dummy account suspended.
Oh shit!
Somebody ratted on you.
Does this mean that they're paying someone just to look for you?
Yeah.
Tweeting
So
another account?
I think I know what happened. I mean, first time I think it was Lucasfilm, but this time I think what happened when anybody was following my Twitter feed, saw that I had gotten into some stupid, Twitter war with some lawyer who was, is one of these shifty lawyers who's representing Facebook and all these other guys and defending their privacy policies, and they're like putting labels on people as extremists, whatever. And so I got into a little bit of a Twitter war, and then I got attacked by a bunch of crazy lawyers. And I think one of the lawyers, I'm a former lawyer. One of those lawyers probably said, "Take this guy down." And they're working with whoever these lawyers are, working with the with the social media companies.
The powers that be.
Yeah, and so they pulled it, and they pulled it enough that even my dummy account was done within a second.
Do you know who Anthony Cumia is?
No, I don't know Anthony. I'm sorry.
Opie and Anthony, big radio broadcasters. He has this thing called Compound Media. You know Chrissy Mayer, right? The one who's on FA. So she's like an employee of that company. She's like a personality on that channel. Anthony Cumia was dealing with that for years, to the point where like literally it's almost like a joke, like the secret joke of how much his Twitter is so buried behind like walls and walls and walls. Because they just every time he'd start up a new one, it would be like the new, and they just bam, bam, bam. Like once they know you're an enemy of the Twitter people, they target you, man. They go for you.
But it's okay. The good thing is I'm still on Facebook for now, still on Instagram for now. And it's actually for the best. I've got a few major TV pitches that I've been working on that are about to go out. And, I'm a big mouth on Twitter. It's probably better if some studios have to do a search and see something I said they don't like when I'm pitching stuff. It's probably a better idea now.
I am so curious about you, right? Okay, so like I lived in Hollywood for a long time. I was like an aspiring actor for like 15 years. And like
you totally got the actor vibe, man. You totally do.
Do I? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's who I was.
Well, let's not go there.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, show him the trailer of your movie.
I would.
But tell me your story. I want to hear your story.
Yeah. So I felt like it was. I was always walking on eggshells. Like I always felt like so much of my life was just kind of like avoiding saying anything that like would be kind of uncomfortable to my social sphere, like saying that, but it's like you are so outspoken, yet like, it sounds like you're still consistently working and you still
I'm still working, but I have made a lot of very prominent enemies, but that's why I'm outspoken, is because, my career was, I had like a moment for about 4 or 5 years where I was getting a lot of attention in this town. I was working on these big, Golden Globe nominated, Emmy nominated shows like Sleeper Cell, getting my books published. A lot of news articles were coming out. This young Muslim guy suddenly hitting the town. And so I was getting a bit of attention for a while. I was writing for the Huffington Post. And then, and I was trying to be if anyone goes and reads my Huffington Post articles from like a few years ago, I was trying to be very cautious, trying to be very moderate in what I said, hiding some of my more traditional views on things.
Sure.
And then it didn't matter. At a certain point, I started noticing, even though I was getting all this momentum, suddenly the momentum just stopped. It literally just stopped. It was like a black wall. And I was like, what's happening? Why am I not getting any meetings? I was getting like 10 meetings last week, right? And then, if you remember, there was this whole bunch of sort of shows that came out a few years ago that were all sort of the FBI agent fighting the terror cell show.
Yeah.
Right?
What was the one with the girl? There was the big one with the girl. I saw the posters all over the place. Anyway.
Homeland.
I won't name them.
No.
There's a bunch of them.
Even more.
But suddenly those shows are coming out. And I had done Sleeper Cell, which had gotten all this attention, a Muslim FBI agent fighting terrorists, right? And then suddenly I was like, they didn't want to interview me. I was like, what do you, my agent's like, yeah, they don't want to interview. I was like, what do you mean they don't want to interview? I mean, I can understand interviewing me and rejecting me. They're like, yeah, they're not even going to bring you in for any of these shows. So I was like, what's happening here, right? And then, so I actually, at some point, I had a producer on one of the shows say, I want to talk to you. He took me out for lunch, and we were friends. He said, I just want to have a conversation with you because I'm shocked about what I heard. He'd been talking to one of the showrunners of one of these big shows, right? And the guy was complaining he was getting a lot of bad press, that a lot of people said his particular show was, bigoted, Islamophobic, whatever. But it was very focused on the Middle East, and a lot of the storylines were inaccurate and were clearly propaganda of some kind. And so he was getting this kind of bad PR, and he was grumbling about it. And so my friend said to him, like, hey man, why don't you just hire Kamran Pasha? You know him, we've worked with him, whatever. He'll bring in, he'll still your show, but he'll adjust the issues or whatever. And he said, I'm never going to hire Kamran Pasha. That guy's a Muslim fanatic. I don't want him to stick to my show. And he said it to my friend, thinking it's going to stay in the sort of powerful people bubble where it doesn't get out. But my friend was so shocked that he would say that bluntly that he took me out and said, hey, this guy is like literally blocking you. And then I would discover a few others were doing that. So I reached that stage where people are like, oh, this guy has gotten too far on the topic that's of interest to us, and we're going to block him. So my career sort of went away from that, and I did fun shows like, Nikita and Rain and other sort of, things like, genre shows. But the very thing that I have a specialty in, the Middle East, was the one thing the town's like, yeah, we're not going to let this guy even talk about it, right? And that experience said, well, I hid my views on everything. Didn't matter. I got canceled anyway. These guys just I wasn't the right person, and they didn't want to let me into their club. And
when was that, Cameron? Sorry, I mean, after what year was that?
When I had that conversation, it must have been I mean, I started noticing something happening around literally, it's like the beginning of the decade. Like in the early 2010s, something was happening because like about 2008, 2009, I was getting all this attention. And then in 2010, things were slowing down. That's when all these shows started happening, right? And I know I had that conversation probably around 2014, 2015. I was like, all right. And that sort of explains why my agents can't get me into shows that I'm topically experienced in. Right. And then I said, all right, well then, if that's the case, if pretending to go along with you guys didn't matter, you're just like, we're just not gonna let him in. All right, then what do I gotta pretend for? I'm just gonna be myself then.
Fucking A, man. I swear to God, like that was one of the things that bugged me the most after I look back on like all the conformity. I was like, it didn't even get me work.
It doesn't get you work.
That was the worst part about it.
People don't respect it. They know you're hiding something. They can sense you're not one of them.
Yeah, it's true. What is that, Cameron? I want it. Like,
because you probably exuded integrity. You're exuding integrity right now on the screen. I can see you're a man of integrity.
He has a spine
thing to it. That's already a signal.
Yeah,
Cameron, how did that happen though physically? I mean, it sounds like it was like an overnight thing. A switch was thrown. You were ostracized. Is it a verbal communication that does that, or how do these people work?
No, it's literally a club. I mean, it's a club. They hang out in the same social club. They hang out.
It's literally a verbal thing where they're meeting.
And for a while, I was invited. For a while, I mean, I was like getting invitations to go to. You guys might not know who this is, but Haim Saban is a billionaire. He's a major media mogul. He's the guy that created the Power Rangers franchise.
They make some really good movies now, right now.
He's a big media guy. And so, I mean, when I was sort of bumbling into the club by accident, I was getting my email. My agents were like, "Hey, you got an invite to go to Haim Saban's mansion in Bel Air," and I'm going. It's the biggest house I've ever seen. It's like 40 rooms or whatever. And they're like A-list famous people. I'm like, well, what the hell am I doing here, right? They're like, what the hell is this guy doing here? But that they have a club and they're all hanging out.
They do, yeah.
They don't want this guy shouldn't be coming to our things.
Yeah, but I want to know what they see. Like, I want to see like that Terminator screen where they like pick out the different options. Like, I want to know what they're assessing because it's like I'm just trying to play the game. Like, you guys are all
trying to be a problem, man. I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna tell you that your worldview is completely garbage. I'm not gonna do that. Like, you're gonna keep throwing it at me, but I'm not gonna get into it with you.
What it comes to at that level is that you got what I call sort of the woke bigotry, because these guys are all racists, and they have their little thing, and some random Pakistani guy isn't going to get into that unless he's totally the Pakistani guy who's their kind of Pakistani. He's got his pronouns in his bio. He's like sexually fluid. Yeah. Then he's like
the big sick guy. What's his name?
Which gentleman, sir?
The guy who's from the Big Sick.
Yeah, no, well, exactly. Kumail
Yeah,
Nanjiani
masculinity is a disease or whatever. That guy.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know Kumail Nanjiani. I've got friends and all, whatever. But I will say,
I just see what he tweets, and I'm like, you're an asshole.
But Kumail's here. Kumail played the game. He's like, yeah, I was born in Pakistan. I'm not Muslim. I'm an atheist. Don't bring up religion. Same thing with what's his face? That guy Aziz Ansari. He comes from an Indian Muslim family. And all these guys always say, I'm not Muslim. I'm an atheist. They always say that. It's like I'm not part of that. I'm an atheist. They can't even say
atheism.
They got to say I'm an atheist. They got to say I've renounced all of this because
that's interesting. The club. Yeah, because that's okay, but other denominations are not. Like if you're like an outspoken Christian, that's also like
My closest friends in this town are Christians who have also faced the same thing, right? I mean, it's amazing. I was during this lockdown. One of the few people that was willing to hang out during the last year was a good friend of mine who was a devout Christian. I worked on a TV show, and he's telling me about his struggles and his options. He plays the game too. He's like hiding his beliefs on politics and everything else. Don't matter. It don't matter.
And that's the thing. You try to hide it. It's like they you're right. They smell it out. Somehow they know. Like, and it's weird. Like I was in a room one time. I was just at an acting studio, but like the girl, like who was like the little queen bee of like that little environment, you know what I mean? Who was just like the most anti-Trump, like, everyone's kind of, and like said something. I don't remember what it was, some opinion. And it wasn't even like that offensive. I just sat and like thought about it for a second. And I swear to God, dude, she clocked the fact that I thought about it.
Oh yeah, because you hesitated.
Yep.
You actually were thinking. You could see in the body language. You're just supposed to regurgitate like a cyborg.
Exactly, man. I was like, what? It's so weird.
The thing is, I want to make one thing clear. This ain't about Muslims and Christians. I've got friends who are religious Jews who are same thing. It's about being religious. Some people say, well, there's a lot of people of Jewish thing in Hollywood. Yeah, but that's not about it. I have a friend of mine who's a French producer who's a very devout Jew. He will not work on the Sabbath, right? And he tells me all the stories of he gets even more disrespect because it's like, really, man, you can't believe in God. What's wrong with you? That's the issue. The issue is God. The issue is having faith, man. That's the issue.
That's interesting, man. Like, I just wonder what that's all about, because I know that a lot of the people that I was around were not powerful, but they were like zealots, like they weren't the clergy, but they were like in the church. You know what I mean?
Hollywood is a materialist clergy. It's materialism. It's atheism and materialism.
Yeah.
Right?
That's non-theistic.
That's actually
materialism.
That's fascinating, dude. I wonder, like, what can be done with that knowledge? You know what I mean? Like, where can you take that? Like, what
you get kicked off of Twitter with that knowledge, man.
Yeah, you don't get to work. End up on YouTube.